Well, here we go. It's the Shoot It Straight podcast. Erika and Cody are back at it again to talk about some cardio today.
Yay, golf-specific cardio.
We'll talk about golf-specific cardio, but like all the types of cardio, I think there's like so much nuance with just even the word cardio. I feel like is almost like a triggering word.
Yeah, for a lot of people, like I hate cardio.
Yeah, they like immediately, I hate it, or I love it, or I need to do it, like there's just so many questions around cardio, and I think this episode will be great because we'll unpack a lot of different angles that cardio it comes up in the fitness world, and also how it can apply to golf. Mm-hmm. I've been getting back into my cardio too, actually, very recently. I think we talked about this on a couple episodes ago, but just kidding. No, it was from last. Honestly, this is both my training goals like shifted a couple weeks ago, but then also we played 18 holes last weekend, and we walked a lot of cardio. We walked 18 holes. Mm-hmm. Well, no, and we pushed our carts, and you know, most courses are kind of hilly in some capacity, and it really did kick my ass.
Yeah, you were tired the next day too.
So were you. We were both kind of in a grumpy
I walked
mood.
18 holes 2 days in a row.
You didn't play 18 on Saturday. You played 14 because you got cold. And then you left early, but you did walk home.
It got slow. It got backed up, and then it was also cold.
Yeah. You did do 2 back-to-back days, which is a significant amount of walking. I think you probably got like 30,000 steps the first day because you walked to the golf course.
Yeah, and I walked to the golf course too. So.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I was humbled by, and I've always been humbled by the golf course when it comes to walking. And I like even in better conditioning shape that I've been in, it is hard to play for. We've talked about this. Having stamina is so important in golf, like to just be able to stay strong hole 1 through hole 18 and be able to hit the ball and also continue to walk the course. So anyway, I just kind of had like a moment last weekend where it was like, I mean, I truly was, my calves were sore. Like, I mean, what the actual fuck, you know?
You had some bad shoes on too, but yeah. And then it's also just the amount of time you're out there too. So just the endurance of doing an activity for 4 hours.
You're on your feet. Well, and so that's why I sometimes I think that, and we'll talk about this, but I think back to the days where I used to run for hours and be able to do that. And I'm like, wow, I mean, it's the same idea of just being on your feet for 4 hours. Plus, again, needing to coordinate and swing a golf club.
Yeah, it's not like running a marathon, but it's like the same amount of time commitment is what it takes a lot of people to run a marathon.
For sure. And I don't want to get carried away where I'm like, oh yeah, it's like running a marathon. It's not like you're out there running your max race pace or whatever. But seriously, like
you're out there moving and doing
stuff is not different than doing like a long, slow run. Mm-hmm. It's not different than that. The intensity level might not be high, but like, you know, being on your feet for 4.5 hours. And yes, my footwear was, maybe we'll talk a little bit about footwear too.
I love talking about footwear. Because
I think that your feet have been bothering you. But my feet, for some reason, I don't know what went on with my shoes. I have no idea if my Nike Roshis like shrunk. Nike tends to be a narrower shoe, but I've also worn those shoes before and not really had issues in the way that I did this weekend. But I've also been lifting significantly heavier over the last like 6 months. And I seriously think that my feet may or may not have just gotten a little bit wider. It doesn't take much.
Big old fat feet now.
I don't know. I mean, I can't explain it. It's like putting on jeans and you're like, why do these jeans shrink? Like maybe my feet probably got a little bit wider because my toes were squished. I mean, I was only like 7 or 8 holes in and my feet were already bothering me. That didn't help. Like my toenails were like scratching me. It was not comfortable.
It was a big old hot mess out there.
It was awful. But I actually played a decent round of golf.
Yeah, I think you even beat me on a couple holes.
I can't believe that you're admitting that out loud.
Well, sometimes you don't really keep score. You're like, oh, par. And it's like, okay.
Okay, we both know that I sometimes just have fun with it. I'm not out there to be the next, you know, John Rahm. Lexi Thompson. I'm going for John Rahm. I'm going for power and strength.
She's pretty strong and powerful.
I'm going for big man strength.
She's a strong woman.
I didn't say that she wasn't. I was just shooting for
And she listens to heavy metal music, so it's kind of cool.
That's right. She is a bad bitch.
Cardio training cardio for golf comes up a lot, and I definitely want it to be more of the focus of your training because it does take a little bit of endurance to play golf, but too common we see that cardio comes up as a form of weight loss method, right? It's like, oh, I need to add back in cardio if I want to lose a few pounds and things like that. So I think that comes up quite a bit for everyone and golfers too.
Well, let's define cardio maybe first. Is that probably the best way to go into this? Is like,
I didn't bring my dictionary today.
Well, no, we don't have to. I think it's just important to define it and how we want to define it in terms of this conversation. I don't think it needs to be the Webster's, whatever. I mean, we could whip out our, Google phones. Anybody can look it up. But for us, I mean, cardiovascular is just anything that gets your heart rate up a little bit. I would think this our definition.
I would say that for like a more prolonged period of time, because like if you do a 1 rep max squat, you're gonna get pretty amped, but I wouldn't recall that like a cardiovascular exercise.
Okay, that's fair. Well, okay, now we're getting already into like the weeds, but
so just a little more like prolonged period of time of like a sustained heart rate.
Sure. No, I don't even think it needs to be prolonged. So now we're not even agreeing on the definition of cardio. This is funny. This is interesting because this is like different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
Because HIIT cardio, like a HIIT class or a HIIT session or 5 minutes or 2 minutes, that could be a cardio thing because it's getting your heart rate elevated.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, yes. And I've said this before too. When you do like a 5x5 back squat, it's fucking cardio. That's exhausting. Mm-hmm. It's, you breathe heavy. And so I do think that the cardio as it relates to this discussion is a certain period of time where you're getting your heart rate up, right? And
right.
I think that's how we'll sort of define it for today, because we are going to go into like the different types of cardio and then maybe the ones too that are beneficial for golf.
Right. Then the just straight up like the number one most beneficial form of cardio, and I post this all the time, is for golfers is walking.
Yes.
Getting out there, because even if you are riding in a cart, you're getting a lot of steps, you're walking a lot, and your feet and your body just needs to be accustomed to that type of movement. Yes. And walking is just one of the best things you can do to get a cardio workout in and just be beneficial for your life.
Yeah. And, I think the context is important here too, to talk about why walking is cardio, and maybe it wasn't always considered cardio like hundreds of years ago, but we are so sedentary now, just as a society. I mean, I'm included in this. We sit at our computers a lot. We sit and we drive. We sit on our couch. Like our world today is not like it was back in the days of like hunting and gathering, or
sure,
even just before the TV, I think, existed. And now we have so many things where everything we can order whatever we want to come to our doorstep. Like we just don't get up and move. And so oftentimes we hear trainers say, and they're not wrong, of like getting out, get moving, get your steps in. And that is nowadays cardio, really, because like if you are someone who tracks your steps, or if you've never tracked your steps, I always think that people should do that for any given period of time, like a week or two, to see how active you really are throughout your day. Because oftentimes people that even work out 5 days a week for an hour a session, that's great that you're moving your body for 5 hours a week. But if you're sitting all day long after that, that's really not good on your body for like so many different reasons. But you get tight. We kind of get like the forward shoulder, tight hips, like all the things that go along with that. But literally, like we are just not moving, and we're not getting our heart rate up at all.
Absolutely. And it's definitely something, when you talk about that, like getting tight, just getting up and walking it will do more than, people think that, oh, I sit all day and I get tight, like I need to stretch now. It's like you probably just need to get up and walk around, and that'll help you with your mobility and your flexibility, probably more than getting up from sitting to going and sitting and doing a stretch.
Yes.
Like just walk.
It's very use it or lose it, like 100%. We were truly, as human beings, like we were put on this earth to be able to walk, and you could even argue that about like running as well. Like we're some of the best. We have some of the highest endurance compared to any of like the animals that are out there. We are not fast sprinters like cheetahs, but we can get out and like we used to hunt and we used to walk for very long periods of time. It's something that humans are really good at doing. And now we just don't do it anymore.
Like Kipchoge, he can run 15 miles an hour for 26.2 miles.
It's so wild.
Like, so that's
He's
pretty
not
insane.
A human. I don't even know what that is.
Pretty crazy. But yeah, like those marathoners, like they can run very, very fast for a very long time.
They can. And, again, there's not that everybody can go out there
not
and
even
do
close.
that.
Like I couldn't even run like a quarter mile as fast as he runs.
Human beings are definitely we're on this earth to be able to walk and to be able to go long distances. And so the fact that we don't do that anymore is really just kind of rough on our health and our body and our recovery. Not to mention the value add of just usually if you're getting up and walking, maybe you're getting outside too. And that's a big, huge benefit. You're getting your vitamin D, you're getting fresh air, you're getting out of your, from out of your computer screen, whatever. Like there's just a lot of benefits to getting up and moving. And so for someone who's getting on an average 2,500, 3,000 steps a day, which is like a mile of walking in total at best, it should be your goal, I think, to try and work that up, get to 5,000, then work your way up to 7, maybe up to 8, you know, and then studies show like anywhere between 7 and 8K steps is sort of where like the benefits of steps start to sort of level off a little bit. Like you can go out and try to get 15,000 if you want, but that's not necessarily necessary for like health.
And then the frequency of it, like trying to just get up like for a couple minutes every half hour or 5 minutes every hour and just kind of move around. I mean, you could still, if you're a busy person working, you can still find a way to probably still work. You know, you can take your laptop around with you, take your phone around with you, or get on a call, whatever it is, but try to do that and move around and walk a little bit too.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I have a desk job, or excuse me, I've had a desk job in past life. I used to sit at my computer all day. I would feel so terrible by like 3 or 4 p.m. every day for various reasons, for different stress reasons, whatever. But really, it's like your body is just not moving for 10 hours. So you're sitting there and you're like, oh, no wonder I'm feeling super tired. My body's not going to expend any energy or move any energy around. So it's just going to make me feel extra, extra, extra sluggish. It does wonders for your energy levels throughout the day. And then you tend to sleep better too when you're actually getting up and moving around throughout your day and actually expending some energy. And again, like just because you're working out, even if you work out 5 days a week, which is awesome, if you're going and sitting for the majority of your day, it's really like
hard to counteract all that. Yep.
Yes.
I wonder how many steps I used to get working in the restaurant business, because I would walk around the whole damn time.
I know, it's interesting.
But,
I like
so it's a different like works. Like you thought about that, and I was like, wow, I've never thought about actually how many steps I used to get working that job, because you just move the whole damn time. That's
right. But I think it's an important thing to talk about, because a lot of people, when we get older, all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm older, so my metabolism is slowing down. And there's literally studies that have shown our metabolisms don't decrease as much as we think that they do. Just because we're 40s and 50s and 60s, we slow down and we stop moving.
Right. We lose muscle mass and things like that.
Of course. Yes. Eating habits and, dieting habits, and that factors into it too, right? Like how many calories have you been taking in over the decades? But if you think about, I was so fit in high school and whatever, it's like, well, yeah, you were doing 2-a-days at field hockey practice in the morning and the afternoon. And then you went to cheerleading practice afterwards. That's like me. Or you played baseball, or you played football for 4 hours, or you ran track, or you did 6 sports every year. Like, of course you could eat whatever you wanted and you had a different body. Not to say that we need to be working out for 6 hours, but again, I think we need to stop. I think we need to let go of the whole, like, we're getting old and we're slowing down thing. I mean, getting up and being active and moving and getting your steps in is so important. And so
are other forms of cardio as well. Like, it's not just steps and walking. Like, you can do a circuit exercise, right? You can put like 3 exercises together and do those pretty quickly. And that could be, a high intensity interval training, or it could just be circuit training, and your heart rate will be elevated for a more prolonged period of time. You could get on the rowing machine, a stair stepper. You could do some jump rope, like, whatever it is that that you have available to you could be a form of cardio. And we're just trying to improve your cardiovascular health, right? Trying to improve your heart health.
Totally. Heart health is so important. And I love that you came at it, at the top of this discussion, talking about it from like what are your goals perspective, because cardio is oftentimes misconstrued as being the thing to use for the only thing for weight loss. It's the only way. Or as a punishment.
Like, I've got to go do this because I did that, right? It's like, no, you should do cardio. Like, and I always ask people that, like, and clients bring that up all the time. They're like, oh, do I need to add this in because I want to lose some weight? Yeah, you will burn more calories, right? But like the calorie burn of a walk or a run or a row or this or that, whatever that your typical form of cardio is, or, is hale in comparison to what you put in your mouth, right? Like, you can go run for probably like an hour and you burn 300 calories or something like that. And it'll be a brutal hour, and 300 calories is nothing.
That's right. Well, what happens over time too with cardio is the better that you get at it,
the less you burn.
Because your body is literally more efficient. That's why it hurts less when you become more conditioned, which isn't a bad thing. Right. Especially if that's what you're training for, right? It's also why like marathon runners don't whittle away to zero, because they eventually their body, they can't just be burning tons of calories all of the time, or else they would just dissipate into thin air. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think cardio, of course, can be used as a tool to improve body composition for sure. But to your point, it is really easy to eat 600 calories in a half of a cheeseburger,
right,
than it is to try and and that's where the phrase like don't out exercise it. You can't out exercise a bad diet kind of comes from, but there really is truth to that, because it's quite a lot easier to manage it with your nutrition and your diet versus trying to overdo it within the exercise and then burning yourself out and then doing that cycle over and over again and getting to the point of like, oh, I'm so tired and sore, or you injure yourself and then you don't work out again for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 4 months. And then you keep repeating that over and over and over again. So again, it always comes back to like health, longevity, and sustainability. Right? Like do the cardio for your heart health. You know, again, like sometimes you have wake up calls where it's like, I just walked up a flight of stairs completely winded, or we've all been there, like in a different scenario. Oh my gosh, I just did like a set of 3x5 squats and I felt a little extra gas. That's when you're like, could probably work on my conditioning a little bit. That's like probably a good time for me to maybe add in an extra day or two of doing a little bit of conditioning work so I can just get my stamina up. And for me, it was literally like, okay, like I can't walk 18 holes. I mean, I did it, but I was pretty wrecked for a couple of days afterwards, like truly.
Well, I think for you, it's also the golf swing itself. Like, you know, taking your practice swings, like that's just a foreign, you know, it's not a natural movement, especially, you know, you don't do it a lot. So like that wears into like how exhausted you are. You know, you took hundreds of swings. I mean,
shut up. All right. Thank you for saying
you didn't hit, I mean, if you actually started keeping score, you would break 100, but I mean, you take your practice swings and you know, hit 2 balls sometimes. So, I mean, you definitely took, you know, over 100 swings out there the other day, and add that in with 4 hours of walking, and don't get defensive. Like I was there, I watched it go down, but
I think I do. I've done a lot better job of managing my practice swings.
You have?
I used to like when I didn't know how to pace the game, like when you're new, like anything else, you're like, oh, I feel good for 9 holes. Then all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I swing 10 shots every hole. You know, like literally that's a lot.
Yep.
I've gotten better about that. But yeah, I mean, yes, I do hit like second balls or whatever because I like to be able to, we had an opportunity to practice.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So,
but I'm saying that also, you also got to factor that into your fatigue.
But anyway, I'm also in shape. And so for me to like feel that smoked, like just in general, I'm like, okay, like I really do. And again, I've been lifting heavy for a little while now. We really haven't done a ton of conditioning since we were doing like some like kind of crazy CrossFit training last summer. We stopped doing that around August.
Oh yeah.
So it's like about time. And that's typically how I've been doing the last several years. Like, and then I'll kind of get back into doing like a little bit more. And for me, like, you know, I get my steps in generally every day. I aim for like 8,000 is like my kind of like where I don't want to go under too much. I don't really get over 10,000 steps unless it happens to be a golf day. But, running is my like way to kind of usually get back into because again, and we can talk about this too, there's certain modalities of cardio that are harder to do, like steady state type. The rower, like the air bike, you can like kind of slow down and be really slow, but I do feel like for me personally, like those are good tools for like
a little bit shorter
zone 4 plus, like heavy, intense, shorter sessions of cardio.
And zone 4 just means your heart rate's more elevated than others. There's like 5 zones for the people out there that don't know about. Like your walking is like zone 2,
right? Where you can still have a conversation.
Your jogging is like 3, and then 3, 4, 5 is you're getting pretty out of breath.
Yeah, and we don't need to get into the nuance of all the different zones today.
But just so people know.
That's fair. Thank you for defining that. But yeah, I mean, we're, for the purposes of like zone 2 steady state cardio and just being able to have a little bit of like longevity in your workouts or stamina.
Yeah, you'd have to be pretty efficient at the rower to probably stay in zone 2. Which is people do it all the time, but
people do, but it's a tough one. And the air bike is like a tough
you're
one.
You're talking more like spin bike, walking, maybe on elliptical or something like that.
Totally. Yes.
Stair step, just like stuff like that. But so I always, it's just comes back to that. People too, they also, so I'm just thinking about things that come up in my DMs. People are like, oh, well, I need to make sure I get a good sweat. I love that one.
Ooh, I love that one too. Let's talk about that.
So sweat, is not how your body burns calories. It's how your body cools itself. So yeah, like if you sweat it all out, like if you're a wrestler and you're trying to make weight, like yeah, sweating it out, like you're going to lose water weight, but it'll go right back in as soon as you drink water. So like if you're going to sweat it out and then go get weighed, that'd be a way to get around that. But yeah, so sweating doesn't like help you burn more calories. It may feel satisfying to sweat, and like that's fine. Like if you need kind of that psychological effect of I'm working really hard because I'm sweating, which obviously if you're doing something and your heart rate's jacked up, you're gonna sweat. But we exert calories through breath and things like that, so it's not just the water perspiring off of our head. But yeah, the people always think that they must have a sweat.
I used to be that person, and
and in group fitness, people would
yes.
I'd show up in my class and they'd be like, "Oh, you gotta turn these fans off, and is there any way we can turn the heater on?" I'm like, "There's about to be 40 people in here, and we're gonna be sweating like crazy." And they're like, "Oh, but I need a sweat."
Yes,
like you need to calm down.
Yes, and there are spin studios to this day that don't turn on the air conditioning, and they keep it a little warm in the room so that you get hot and sweat sooner, so that you think that you're getting a better workout. I mean, listen. I used to be this person. I'll say it again. I used to need to get the sweat. I used to need to do my cardio every morning because it's just like what made me feel better in the morning. But a big part of that was like me thinking that I was like doing that was just a better workout. It was just better because I was sweating. And for somebody who used to be 120 pounds and like have 0% body fat, literally, it was really hard for me to break sweat sometimes because I was so conditioned. And
I sweat like crazy.
Yeah, like some people just do. But anyway, the point is, I think that's such a good point because it comes up a lot. And I think the other side of it, so there's guys that can associate it to sweating, burning fat, or burning more calories or whatever. And like, I love the analogy, or not really the analogy, but the making weight for your wrestling. That's a big one with like a lot of men. And then for women, it's like we've been marketed to for a really long time now of like burn is a big one, like in fitness to like burn.
Sweat is your fat crying.
Yeah, like all of that stuff though. But you like all of the names of like all these group classes, it's like, and then for us to feel the burn, right? We're doing like 98 reps of something in a bar class so that we feel this burn. And supposedly that means that it's like more effective because we've exhausted the fuck out of like a tricep extension or something, because of course you did, because your arms were over your head for like 4 minutes or whatever that it is, right? So all that to say is like we definitely don't necessarily need to sweat in our workouts for it to be effective, for sure. Right. Everybody's level of sweat too like is different. Like some people just sweat more than other people. I think that's like something to be said too.
Yeah. And not to go say like, hey, your workouts, you shouldn't break a sweat, but it's just like that's not your marker of if it's effective or not.
It's not.
If you're working out really hard, you're probably going to break a sweat.
That's right. But also, if you've lived in Florida ever or Texas and it's summer, you also break a sweat going out for a walk for 2 minutes or even less minutes, just walking to your car in the driveway. Sure. Right. So it's just kind of like all relative as far as like the sweat threshold, I feel like is
yeah. And some people like, I mean, I used to coach group fitness, and like afterwards, like certain guys, you'd have to like make sure you had to show, and they were participants in your class. Right. And you had to make sure they knew where the mop was, because it was like after class, like, hey, I've got to quickly like transition my classes. I've got to go outside and grab all these people that are coming in 3 minutes. I need you to clean up your own sweat.
Oh, 100%.
Like I don't have time for this. You're like, you left a pool over there. Like here's the mop. Thank you.
Yeah, I used to do that too.
I don't care that you're a paying customer.
In my classes too. Yeah, because we also had like this policy that was like, 1 towel per person, but it would be like the dude that was in there every couple of days, and
he got a few more towels.
He got a couple extra towels. I'm like, I'm not going to clean that up. But that's a lot. Like, I mean, again, like you get used to sweat in Group X. It's not like necessarily something I'm like, but like sometimes it's wild. It's like there's a lot for some of those guys.
I mean, in Group X, like is a perfect example of, cardio. Like, even though it's weights, people are like, oh, I get my strength training. And this used, we used to work in the big box gyms. And it'd be like, oh, I'm going to go do this class because they use weights. So that's my strength training. Yes. And then I'm going to go do spin class because that's my cardio.
Yes.
I'm like, the heaviest weight you picked up in that class was 4 pounds.
Yes.
There's other group fitness modalities out there that you pick up much heavier weights, and they do have a strength training component. But at the end of the day, that was cardio with weights. And now you're going to go do more cardio on the bike.
Well, let's talk about Group X a little bit more, because I think that there's a lot of nuance
Let's
And
talk about our love for Group X. That's where we met, was in a Group X class.
we did.
So we have a soft spot in our hearts for Group X, but there's definitely some things
Oh, a total soft spot for Group X.
We want to explain about Group X.
Yeah, I want to explain Group X because we both coached it for a long time. I mean, I literally coached Group X for like 10 years total, combined with like yoga, and then we got into, then I got more into like whatever, the Megaformer at Solid Core. Did that for several years. Still kind of did some yoga actually while I was doing that, and then got more into the Group X and the Globo Gym space, and then we did that in Austin together.
Oh, we did CrossFit right before that though.
Yeah, I never coached that. You did. We did what did we do? Level 1 together.
Oh yeah, we did level 1 CrossFit. But then we coached some CrossFit. Then we coached
I was talking about what I've coached. I've never coached CrossFit. Have I? Oh yeah, I guess kind of I did in Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I did. So there's just been a lot. That was sort of like a CrossFit hybrid class, but
then I coached straight up CrossFit.
Yeah, you coached CrossFit.
Yeah. Okay.
With the barbell.
Right. Okay. And the bar itself.
And the bar itself, yes.
The pull-up bar.
Yes.
And muscle-ups and
yes.
that fun stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've both done a lot of Group X and taught a lot of different modalities of it, and it can be really great. And I think the biggest thing, and we're proof of that, is like the community aspect of it and meeting people.
Yeah, I met most of my friends, actually all of my friends, in Washington, D.C. at a group fitness class.
I mean, me too.
I mean, a friend from Oklahoma actually took me to Ben Colbert, took me to my first Elevate class, and that's where we met, and that's where I ended up meeting like all of my friends I ever made in D.C. was like via Elevate Interval Fitness on 14th Street.
Well, and I think that there was a time, and maybe, everyone's experience is different, but that was like the height of, there was a period of time where the height of Group X was like, it was just the scene.
Yeah, I think this was 2016 when I first went.
Yeah. And so I think in DC specifically, it was starting around like the 2013, 2014 mark where like things were starting to just pop open. Like the Soul Cycle started to come in. I mean, Elevate obviously was opened in 2013, I believe.
And that's when CrossFit was really hitting the mainstream a little bit more.
CrossFit gyms started to pop up everywhere. Rich Froning
was like really like reigning supreme. Like here's the fittest man on earth. It's like, okay, so this whole group fitness thing is booming. Yeah,
and supposedly, like, I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing, but like the Orange Theories of the World type things came out as a result of CrossFit really being like the first group exercise sort of hit class, if you will. And now it's more of like a lot of those people stripped away the barbell and to make it a little bit easier to put a bunch of people in class.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
You have like the Berries, and you have like the Hit Studios and the Orange Theories and like all of that kind of stuff.
All kind of started from CrossFit.
Yes, it did.
Right.
And so anyway, it's great like to see like all of the fitnessing everywhere. But then also what happened was like you have like you have a lot of rapid growth happening. And I think what happened pretty quickly, and you have to remember, is that these gyms are our business and they need to make money. So they need to have a lot of bodies in the room to make margins, to make them be able to be profitable. You can only have classes at certain times of the day. Ideally, you would have a class every hour on the hour. And maybe back then some of the best studios did. Like, I mean, you could go to New York City and go to a class, like there was a fitness sort of heyday in New York back then where it was like you could go at 12 or 1 or 2 p.m. in the afternoon into a studio and you would be able to go into a class and there'd be 10 other people in there. Like that was like peak
I remember that. Went
fitness.
to New York City one time and it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like a full CrossFit class.
Yes. And maybe again, like kudos to the studios that are still out there doing that hustle. I'm sure there are some there, that are just killing
massive and crushing it.
And massive and crushing it. And I think that's great. But like, it's hard to do that and sustain that. You're typically running like your 3 or 4 classes in the morning. Maybe you have a lunchtime class, or maybe you do like a 9
and maybe that's only like
crowd.
It's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's not every day.
Not every day. And then you have your like 3 evening classes or something like that, or 4. And then maybe on the weekends, you're doing a couple on Saturday morning and Sunday morning at best. So anyway, you're paying rent for the full month and you have to fill bodies in the room, and then you have to keep people coming, and then you have to have enough coaches to make all of those classes work. And a lot of coaches work at multiple studios or they have full-time jobs. And so anyway, like the business side of it, like really also drives like the culture of Group X. And that is like get trainers trained really fast, get coaches trained really quickly, That doesn't necessarily lead to high quality coaches and trainers. That was something that I saw in some of the studios and spaces that I worked at, where it's like you have some people that have a good experience in training and they're smart and they're good coaches, but then you have some people that are leading the room and they just aren't good trainers. They don't have the ability to look at 30 people at a time or even 20 people at a time or however many people and be able to like really read the room.
Because you have to like triage the room, actually.
You
like,
have to,
you
yes,
know,
it's
you have to
hard.
figure,
It's hard,
you have to figure
by the
out
way.
like, okay, I've got 30 people in here.
30 different fitness levels.
Yeah, 30 different fitness levels. Half of them are probably not doing things right, at least. And then you've got to figure out in your short amount of time before you've got to cue the next exercise or something like that to happen, or change the music or fix your microphone or whatever, the million different things that can happen while you're coaching. Who is the one that needs the most attention right then?
Oh, and then by the way, someone just walked into your studio that was late. Like, yeah. It's like there's just so many
crazy.
Things happening.
Like, and like I just want to talk about like as you're triaging them, it's like I always thought, you know, from being, because before I was a coach, I was a trainer, so like I just did my one-on-one training. I was like, okay, you know, one of the hardest move to teach somebody is like the deadlift or the squat or something like that. But in a group fitness setting, it's like the push-up and the row tend to be a freaking nightmare. And I'm like, every time I'd like set push-ups up, I'm like, oh shit, like I just show people how to do a push-up and there's one person doing it right.
Why do you
or
think
like
that
a
is?
row.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just because it's an exercise that if you're showing someone like a barbell squat or a deadlift or something like that, they're a little more focused and paying attention to you because like maybe they're not as familiar. But like so many people have done push-ups before, right? So like they've done them their whole life, but they've done them wrong. So then you see it and you're like, oh shit, like, and they've ingrained these bad movement patterns, right? Like if you're showing someone a squat, like maybe they have never done it before with a weight in their hand.
Yeah.
But they've done a push-up.
Right.
So like they've just developed these crazy bad habits that you've got to really like pull back. And the same thing like with the golf swing, right? Like you see someone swinging the golf club wrong. Like I bet if you're a golf instructor, you'd rather have someone walk up to you and say, hey, I've never touched a golf club before in my life. Show me how to swing it. They'd be like, sweet, I got you. But if they're like, hey, this is the way I've been swinging for 25 years and it's a nightmare, they're gonna be like, son of a bitch. Like I've got to like, you know, break this all down. I've got to tear it down, tear it apart. But so that's kind of how I felt. But like, yeah, and rows too. Like I guess people don't do as many rows as they do push-ups, but those were always a nightmare too, just getting people into proper positions and like where they're rowing the dumbbell. Like most people like row it like too like close to their chest and like up in their armpit. Yeah. And so it's like rear delt, which, you know, isn't bad. Like it's not inherently bad for you. It's just like, if we want to row, like, you know, really lift some weights and like hit some bigger muscles, like you want to like row the dumbbell more towards your hip or like more towards your rib cage, you're going to hit your lats and some bigger muscles, you know, because it's a compound movement. Because in a compound movement, it's just that you're moving more than one joint at a time, right? Like a bicep curl is an isolated movement because it's just your elbow. And then a row is a compound movement because now it's your elbow and your shoulder. So you want to hit your bigger muscles when you're doing your compound movements. And yeah, just like, so I would always be like, okay, shit, here we go with the squat. And I would like, and you know, if anyone was in my Elevate classes, like I would sit there and like, you know, and I love the squat. So like I would sit there and break it down like crazy, like explain it like, you know, like no one had ever seen it before in their lives. And then I'd do a push-up, like, oh, just drop down the floor and do push-ups. And then I quickly realized like, oh shit, you need to talk about the push-up a little bit more too.
Yeah, that's good. I've never heard you talk about that before. And I think everyone's experience, again, as a coach and what you see is a little bit different, especially depending on what it is that you're coaching. And I mean, Elevate did a good amount of push-ups actually too. Mm-hmm. But that leads me into the next point about Group X is that a lot of times in a lot of group exercise classes, you're packing a 45-minute at minimum, oftentimes 55 or 60 minutes of just straight up moving for that amount of time. And so
there's very little rest.
What happens is there's very little rest. And so even a movement that is not necessarily complex or challenging does become very complex or challenging because you're smoked.
Right.
You're completely exhausted. So, and we've all been there with, you know, I just talked about it with golf. Like I'm walking for 3 hours, my golf swing starts to break down. Well, imagine being smoked. You did 30 burpees. Then you jumped off and ran on the treadmill, sprinted for 60 seconds. And then you were asked to do, you know, dumbbell squats. Well, It's like, this is going to be hard as shit. Cause anything is hard. It's hard to stand up. Like it's really, so a lot of Group X, and this is circling it back to the cardio conversation, is not necessarily about lifting heavy and getting stronger and sculpting your body in the way that maybe a dedicated training session or lifting weight session would provide. It's just like, how fatigued can we get in this amount of time, and how many different movements can we do that are a little bit different? Maybe it's a little push-pull action that's quote unquote balanced, but you're just jacking your heart rate up for 60 minutes, and it really doesn't matter what we're doing. We're just doing a bunch of different movements as fast as we possibly can.
Right.
And that's it.
And some studios do it better than others, like Elevate does it pretty well.
Right.
You know, and then some, you know, it's just like, wow, this is just going to be a total beat down. And you're just going to do literally as much shit as you possibly can cram into this hour.
Yes.
And exhaust people to no end. And that's what they're going to think is a great workout.
Yeah. And as a result of that, that's why you see those people. And what happened was you coach long enough and you see the same people in the same exact bodies doing the same exact weights for literally like 3 years in a row.
Yep, you do.
And they're like, cool, I'm still grabbing 15-pound dumbbells for my squats. And like part of that is the byproduct of the workout, the programming. You can't necessarily go higher than that because you're just tired, so you can't go heavier. When
it's all like dependent on like when it was programmed in the workout. Like, you know, if you put like if you program any workout and you put squats first versus you do the same, you put the workout 3 weeks later and you put squats last, it's not gonna be the same.
It's not. But again, in general, people are gonna grab like how many group exercise studios do you see with 65-pound dumbbells like laying around? Like it's like here are the 15s, 20s, and the 25s. Like 25s being like pretty heavy. You see men as well.
Yeah, the last gym I trained at in DC, big box gym, I think the biggest, they had one 40-pound dumbbell in the room.
So it's like we're not encouraging people to progress their workouts, to get stronger, to pay close attention to form. And this isn't to bash even coaches necessarily. I would consider us pretty good coaches. At one point I wasn't. It takes a long time to get good at teaching group exercise.
It does.
Because you have to there's so many different layers of learning. You have to learn the room and like just the logistics and music and timing and things like that.
Yeah, because you also have to you know, there's a level of like you're somewhat of a performer too. Like when you are the group fitness coach and there's 40, 50 people in your room and they're all just staring at you, like, and if you're boring as hell, they're not going to like class. Like, so there is a little bit of an entertainment.
Well, that's a plus and a minus. I agree with that. There's certainly coaches, and people are drawn to certain coaches and I like that about it when there's like people that come to you specifically or whatever. Like there was a time where that's what I would do, and you
pride yourself on that. You're like, this is awesome. Like people can see me. Yeah.
But then there's the other side of it where it's like it literally is a freaking performance, and we've been to those spin classes that are like all about the performance, and it's not necessarily a good class. Can you have both? 100%. We've taken classes in spin class that we've liked the instructor, and it's very entertaining.
Oh yeah, she's up there, she flips her hair, and she cranks up the music, and it's
super
like
here for it.
But
she's hot, like it's good.
You went to that, like, I mean, that was like, oh, I'm going this is like going to a concert.
It
like,
is,
this
but her
this
class
was for fun.
Good. But
it was a workout too, but it was fun.
What I'm saying is that her class was good, and sometimes it's like just about this person in front of the room being a gym celebrity or whatever it is that they're trying to be is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think like, anyway, that, you know, it is interesting, but yes, there's a lot to being a group X instructor. And those of you that are out there that are good or have taken a good instructor, that you know who those people are, because it's awesome to be in their class. Like you feel like they're holding you accountable. I think that's a huge positive. Like when there's not just the other people in the room holding you accountable and that you're like maybe competitive with, but like the coach is keeping you accountable. They're pointing out things that you could do better or giving you heavier weights and things like that. Like that's awesome when you see that. But you see also a lot of, and I think the majority of, like, there just aren't as high quality coaches out there because it's tough.
Yeah. And I always, you know, I was introduced to it like late in my fitness life, right? Like it was only like 6 or 7 years ago when I took my first like group fitness class. You know, and like it does like give you this little edge of competitiveness, right? Yes. Like if you're on the treadmill and there's someone next to you, like you hit the button, you go a little faster. Yes. If you're in CrossFit and I see that the guy in the class before that is around my like skill level, if he did the workout and he got 100 reps, I want to try to get 101, or I want to lift a little more weight than him. Like, you know, it's just, it does give you that. So it does push you a little bit. And I think it's cool to teach you how to push yourself a little more. And then you can take that into your own workout too. That's programmed more for you and your goals, because, you know, in a group fitness class, like the goal is, whatever that the brand is. Like they're going to teach you the workout, and like everyone can have pretty much the same goal with that workout, because that's what you took the class for. But, you know, if you got more specific goals, you need to get your own program. But it does teach you how to just push yourself a little bit harder, know that you have a little bit more in the tank, because that's what I definitely learned from going to, you know, CrossFit and Elevate and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think a good segue into from that is like how to program. If you really like Group X and you want to make it a part of your routine, you know, our recommendations around using it. And I think that because of the intensity level and because we typically are pushing ourselves pretty hard in a Group X class, because like it's pretty hard, even if you're aware, it's pretty hard to scale yourself or to say, I'm going to give 50% today because it's my like lighter day. Like that's just not how to effectively
every time I went in there saying like, oh, I'm going to take it easy today. Next thing I knew, I was grabbing the heaviest dumbbell in class, like because the guy next to me thought he was like going to outdo me that day. And I was like, no.
So I would say like for somebody like doing one of our programs, right? Or, you know, if you're going to the gym and you're lifting 3 times a week or 2 times a week, I think going to a Group X class like once a week is totally reasonable. Maybe twice if you're a little bit more conditioned, but like if you're going to go and really do it up, and this was me at Elevate too for the longest time. I mean, I was working out all over the place, but like Elevate was hard, and I never did it more than like twice a week. Seriously, it was very rare that I would do like a third day, because it was, if you're doing it right, if you are seriously doing some of these classes correctly and hard enough at the intent, and you're giving it your 110%, you shouldn't be able to go that many times a week. Right. I always felt like some people show up and they want to kind of check the box off, which like there are people that's truly their goal. They're sweating out their alcohol from the night before. They do want to just wake up and like start their day off with a workout. There are plenty of those people out there, and I think that they're just kind of fine with that. Mm-hmm. But if you're really wanting to get better and like sharpen up your conditioning, get your cardio conditioning better, really be focused and be able to give 100% intensity during your Group X class, I think 1 or 2 times max per week is plenty.
Yeah, and I don't think a group fitness class is like the ideal place for a beginner. I mean, it is great to have the community and the support of people around you, and the barrier to entry, like as far as price goes, like as opposed to getting a one-on-one personal trainer, is definitely lower at a group fitness class, and you are going to get some coaching, but it is very challenging. If like you are brand new to fitness and you jump right into a group fitness class, it's going to be challenging. And a lot of the good studios have now like added in, you know, some small group training and things like that.
Like a foundation.
To help you kind of learn the movements first before you get thrown into a class and you've got to do 100 of them all of a sudden. And you don't even know how to do one.
Yes.
So I think a lot of that's out there, and we've always talked like, you know, to like really do the classes, a lot of them, like a CrossFit, for example, like if you're going to go in there and do the workout they've prescribed, the only people that are doing it really that well are the high level athletes. You know, everyone else like is either trying to and like just falling pretty short of the intensity level that was, you know, chosen for that particular workout. Like if it's a short workout, like, you know, just a few minutes long, it should be really intense, like with those movements. And if you don't know how to do them yet, you're not doing it very intense. Then all of a sudden you just did 5 minutes of really not a whole lot of activity, right? And someone else did 100 reps of that. Like, and I'm not trying to compare two people, but your time would have been better spent, you know, working one-on-one on figuring out that movement, or just a different foundational movement to get you into whatever it is that your goal is for that workout itself.
Totally.
So yeah, we've always talked about that. It's like that class was for the elite athletes. Like, you know, some of them are for very elite athletes. It's like, there's no way like a normal person can do that well.
Yes. And it comes back to the, like having someone who's programming it for them to be good and smart about it. But again, on the other side, in defense of the owners and the coaches out there, it's very hard to program workouts from beginner levels all the way up to people that are very advanced. It's almost nearly impossible to really do that. And
programming them week after week, right? It's like, and you have no idea who's going to show up that day. They may be on your class list, but there's no guarantee they're actually going to show up.
Yes.
So they missed the progression that you're going to try to get them into the following week, but they missed that week, then they missed another day. And now they came once this week, and then they're going to come on Monday this week. They're going to come on Friday next week.
Yes.
You know, like how do you progress anything?
Totally. And we would have people that would be like, everyone's doing hamstrings this week. And you're like, well, fuck, I didn't know that because the other coaches are training something else. Like, you just don't know. Yeah. It's impossible to coordinate.
It's impossible. And like, so like, it's just, you know, it's really challenging. And so, you know, for the people that write, you know, and I've written workouts for, you know, group training, and it's like, oh, and then, because some studios, right, like the coaches just come up with whatever workout they want. You take a different coach the day before. I could literally, without knowing what that coach wrote, you could have done 100 squats in that class yesterday, and then I program you to do 100 squats today,
Yes.
or 100 bicep curls or whatever it is.
Yes.
And you have no idea. So it's just, that's why group fitness is challenging. And, you know, some, like, just keep saying it, like, some places do it better than others.
Yeah, they do. And like, hopefully this conversation provided a little context for people. Like, again, there's just nuance. It's not like there's even one studio that's better than the other. It really does depend on your goals. I think it's good to take all of that in and kind of make the decision for you, like what's best for you. Obviously, you know, a lot goes into it. What's the closest studio to you? What time of day do they have classes, right? There's so many things, right, that go into like how people choose where it is that they go. And, you know, again, I think it does come back to like making sure that your dose is good is important. Probably the majority of people probably don't need to be going to group exercise 3, 4, 5 times a week. I mean, no. I think you can alleviate the programming issue with that by going once a week. You can alleviate, you know, overuse and kind of like getting injured or burnout if you're reducing it enough, you know, seeking out good coaches and trainers, asking questions. Right. Like on whose, you know, experience level is what and how these people are trained. And
like, just for golfers in particular, like I want to like let them know, like typically a group fitness class is going to be high volume. Like you're going to do a lot of reps of stuff, and it's going to get you sore. It's going to get you really tired. And if you know, as a golfer, like being sore and trying to go play golf the next day is just not ideal.
Totally.
So, you know, you want to pick that around when you're going to go play, when you're going to go practice. And that's why you do programs, because programming won't make you as sore and fatigued. It'll be more, you know, strategic in how you're picking your exercises and your volume of the movements that you do.
Totally.
To keep you out of being wrecked to go play golf.
Yes. And that's, again, where programming is so valuable. And that's why we do what we do and why we have programs. Mm-hmm. And so I do encourage people to definitely check our programs out. Again, if you're a Group X person and you've been doing it for years and you haven't seen any progress in your goals, whether it's body composition related or just, you know, muscle imbalances or your golf game, I think
injuries.
Yes. Looking at some of our programs for sure is probably a good next step for you, especially if you know your way around the gym. You know how to do we do the basic movements. We do the simple ones that have been around for decades. Mm-hmm.
When you have to, and then also like, you know, I've trained a lot of people that have came out of group fitness, and they always have, and I always got to make sure like when I write programs that I prescribe rest periods.
Yes.
Because if you're used to group fitness, it's just go, 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 go.
Yes.
And golf isn't a game of, I mean, it is you walk, but you know, it's not a game of drop your ball, hit another one, drop your ball, hit another one. It's not constant repetition, right? So like give yourself a little bit of a break, unless it's prescribed not to, because I do put like some finishers on there that'll get your heart rate elevated and make you sweaty and things like that. But you know, don't just go, 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 go. Like our goal is technique, quality over quantity, and you know, just that way you're able to progress instead of just progressing only how tired you can be.
Yes. Yes. And broadening that a little bit further too is just rest days in general and giving yourself that time in between your workouts. And I know it can be hard for people that love to go to the gym. If you love to go to the gym, do mobility, go walk on the treadmill, go to the gym and be at the gym. That's literally what we do.
We go like Sundays I go and just kind
of play around,
do my mobility. Like if something's kind of bothering me, I'll work on it a little bit. And then we usually just walk.
Yeah.
Watch the TVs.
That's it.
And you know, when it's nicer outside, we'll just walk around outside.
Yes. It's been wintry and dark and cold and whatever, but
well, it's dark for us because we wake up at 3:00 in the morning, but I
guess it'll always be dark unless we're in Alaska or something and whenever it's like 24.
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, hopefully this was a helpful discussion. I mean, I enjoyed this conversation. Actually, it kind of took a few turns in a good way.
Well, we have to walk down memory lane a little bit, and you know, and it kind of like made me, you know, think about some good times. Like the group fitness was a lot of fun. It was a big part of our life, and you know, we don't really do it anymore, but you know, I've learned a lot from it, made a lot of good friends, and
100%.
And there's some really great things you can get out of group fitness. Just, you know, and like CrossFit in particular, like I don't really think that's the best thing for golfers. You know, but if you want to drop in and do one every once in a while, you know, if you like something, do it.
Yes.
But you know, if you are super serious about your golf game and getting into the gym to improve your golf athlete body. That probably was a weird way to say it, but you know,
I'm here for it.
yeah. Then, you know, we got programs out there for you. And yeah, and if you want to supplement them with a group fitness workout, we can talk about ways you could put that in there. Typically, you know, if I write a workout that's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in a perfect world, you know, you take your rest days in between. I would tell people, I do tell people, like, you know, after your Friday workout, you're going to have, I program 2 days off after that. Saturday, if you want, go knock yourself out, because then you're gonna have a rest day before you get back into my program, which is designed for strength and power, and you won't be super fatigued from your Saturday workout that's gonna make you pretty sore.
Perfect. So CodyWescottGolf.com for your programs.
Instagram and YouTube.
Cody Wescott Golf on Instagram. Cody Wescott Golf YouTube channel. And then, you know, I'm Erika Elko, just keeping it real with my maiden name handle on the Instagrams. But
your maiden name's kick ass.
It's a great maiden name.
Yeah.
Maiden sounds so old. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. We will see you next time.
Thank you.